About 30% of our workforce is highly engaged. It means a third of your workforce is going in every day and giving you their all.
So that means 2/3 are not.
You've got about 20% of your workforce that's actually working against you. On that 6-month anniversary of my layoff, I started to have this mini panic attack because I felt like I was absolutely nowhere closer to finding that answer, that purpose, than at the day that I got laid off. And that was the night that I prayed and asked God to show me what he wanted me to do with these skills.
Relationship building and humanity part, that's the one part that AI cannot do.
For decades, leaders have been valued based on their knowledge. AI is kind of taking that over. It's common sense, it's just not common practice.
You're listening to Fine is a 4-letter word. I'm your host, Lori Saitz. This show exists because fine is a lie leaders tell themselves. And it costs them their people, their culture, and their impact. Every episode, a leader gets honest about what it really takes to lead with empathy, vulnerability, gratitude, and courage. I trust something in this conversation will stay with you. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Fine is a 4-letter word. My guest today, Scott. Wow, I screwed up the first name. Scott Doggett. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Lori, is it?
Tell me what the values and beliefs you were raised with what were they that contributed to you becoming who you are?
I grew up in a very small town in New England. My dad was a principal of the school that I went to growing up, and we went to a congregational church, and so it's just a very small community. And I really learned from a very early age to really just value every person as a priceless human being, and to treat everybody with dignity and respect. And I think that was a value that was instilled in me from my earliest memories. And so I think that's something that has carried through to where I am today and the work that I do and the work that I'm trying to, the movement that we're trying to create across the nation right now in humanizing our workplaces.
Mm-hmm. Were there any values or beliefs that didn't work for you that you had to discard along the way?
I think throughout my, probably early on in my career, I was taught some things that about leadership, as far as needing to instill either fear or leading with that like a firm fist or the big stick, and a lot of that was taught to me early on in my career, and I even tried a little bit of it and found that it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It didn't feel right, and I kind of let that go and realized that wasn't me and it didn't work for me, and so that was something that that just didn't feel right.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, in the conversations you and I have had, I don't see that being a good fit for you and for your personality.
I literally had a leader once that said, "You have got to yell sometimes. You got to raise your voice sometimes." And he would say it so often that I remember one day, I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to try it." And I tried it for about 5 seconds, and it was so uncomfortable that I think I started to laugh. It was so bad. And that was it. I said that I just have to be myself. I can't do that. I can't do this.
Yeah. I was gonna say, did the people you were yelling at just laugh
Yeah,
at you?
yeah. It was like, okay, this isn't Scott.
No. And it's interesting though that so many people try to be something that they're not.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like them because somebody told them that's how you have to be a leader.
And I think it's because that's how either they were taught or that was their style. And so they think that's the only style, that's the only way to get results is the way that they were. And I've even coached executives the same way that, that they were taught a certain way back in the 70s or 80s. And this is how you drive results.
Mm-hmm.
And to go against that, it is hard, especially as a young leader starting off in your career and in your heart, knowing that that's not, at least for me, that wasn't me, and it didn't feel like the right approach in dealing with people and getting results from people. But that's how you learn, and that's how you grow.
Oh, exactly. We are hopefully growing in wisdom as we mature. That was a good word, right? Uh, do you think that has evolved or I guess evolve is the best word for it, over the years? Because you mentioned like back in the 70s and 80s, like has it evolved with the changing generational
Yeah.
changes in the workforce? Or do you think there were people back then, back in the 70s? I mean, we were just kids, but that were leading with less of an authoritarian style, or has the style evolved? Like, does that make sense what I'm asking here?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right. In the 70s, I was a kid. In the 80s, but from what I've studied, I think now there's just more options for employees. There you don't see the loyalty, or you don't see people sticking around for 25, 30, 40 years as much as you did back in our parents' generation. And I think it's just because they didn't have as many options. They didn't have whereas employees today, if you don't get treated well and you don't feel like you feel psychologically safe, or you don't feel valued or respected, if there are opportunities, you can go and find other opportunities at other organizations. So I think people, employees have that
Mm.
advantage, I guess, to expect better from their leaders, and I think that has forced leadership to maybe adjust their style to try to keep those employees, because that turnover is such a high cost to organizations, uh, and if to drive results and to stay in business, you really need to really nurture and keep your employees engaged.
It seems odd, though, that being human and treating employees as humans is an evolution, like has been an evolution, like that it wasn't always that way.
It's interesting to study this because as humans, right, we put labels on people when we see them, and as leaders, I think being a leader for 30 years and have worked for 20 years in the corporate space, there's so much going on. When you go into the office, it's like a whirlwind every day. There's so much going on, and you've got all these pressures and deadlines, and you've got pressure to get results each quarter, and that environment, when you because of that pressure,
Mm-hmm.
you start to see your employees as resources. We even call them human resources, or right, they're our most important assets, or our people. So we're calling human beings assets and resources to be managed. And when we put those labels on people, that's how we start to treat people. And the way we treat people is the way we make them feel. And that's where employees start to feel like, I'm just a number, I'm just a resource, and they don't see me as a human being, or they certainly don't see me for who I am individually,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't get to know me and my strengths and my goals and who I am, and that's what leads to our engagement in this country is dismal. Right now, Gallup is showing about 30% of our workforce is highly engaged. That means a third of your workforce is going in every day and giving you their all, and a third, that's it.
Yeah, so that means 2/3 are not.
Right. And you've got about 50% that are kind of in that zone of apathy. So they're showing up and they're doing their work, but you're not getting all of them. You're not getting their creativity or those ideas or that extra effort that is so valuable. And you've got about 20% of your workforce that's actually working against you, whether you know it or not. They're actually doing things that are harming your organization. And I think we focus a lot on that 20% because they tend to be visible, where the opportunity is to really make a big impact on that 50%. Because really, employees don't want another pizza party. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be valued. And that doesn't cost money. That really just requires a change of heart and a change of perspective.
Interesting. Well, since the show is called Fine is a Four-Letter Word, I would love for you to share your story of the time when you said everything was fine and it was not fine.
So I have a couple of those moments. And I think one was when I going through this 30-year career of mine, I always kind of equated success with, promotions and titles and, big awards. And that was really how I defined success.
Climbing the corporate ladder.
Climbing that ladder. And I did, right? I made my way up to vice president. And I really thought that was kind of the pinnacle. And maybe I'd get to chief learning officer one day. But um, that I think was probably my first moment where I realized, you know what? It's not fine. That I have more to offer. And I think that, God gave me these skills for a reason. And being in that corporate environment, I got a lot of uh, joy out of serving my team and seeing people grow on my team.
Mhm.
But there was a lot that I knew uh, that I was missing. And so I really, back in the end of 2023, I found myself as part of a layoff for the first time in my career. And that was the moment where I realized, you know what? I need to do something different. I need to find a purpose with these skills beyond the corporate life. And so I went out on this journey to try to find uh, uh, something, something bigger, better. I don't know what I was on the search for, but I went on this 6-month journey to find my purpose. And I landed a job with a nonprofit,
Mm.
and I thought that was my calling. I really did. I thought I prayed for it, and God answered my prayer. And I said, this is it. I'm going to work for this amazing nonprofit. I'm going to be able to use my leadership skills and my, and 9 months into it, I was part of a second layoff. And yeah, I thought, okay, God, what's going on here? I thought this was my calling. I thought this is what I was going to do for the rest of my career. And what I realized was he brought me there for a very specific reason. And that was to show me servant leadership in a way that I had never seen servant leadership in an organization. And that was the catalyst. And that was the inspiration for the work that I'm doing today.
Mm.
So, but I needed that.
When you took the journey into the wilderness, I think is
Yeah.
how you phrased it
Yeah.
when we first talked. Did you know like were you planning that it was going to be 6 months or it just happened to be 6 months?
So I got a 6-month severance package. So when that happened, I talked to my wife and I said, "Listen, I got 6 months. Uh, let me just go out and explore and see what's out there." And so literally, I gave myself that 6-month window to go out and explore. And I did. I tried some consulting work, and I did some some great work with like an Indian tribe out in Alabama, which was really cool. I taught some classes at the local college here in Orlando, but it just wasn't that. I didn't find that spark. And literally on that 6-month anniversary
Mm.
of my layoff, literally it was the 6-month anniversary, I started to have this mini panic attack because I felt like I was absolutely nowhere closer to finding that answer, that purpose, than at the very that day that I got laid off. And that was the night that I prayed and asked God to show me what he wanted me to do with these skills. And when I woke up in the morning, it was the first email in my inbox was a LinkedIn job posting for this specific job at this nonprofit. And so it was like God literally answered my prayer that day. So crazy, right?
That is so crazy. That is like, and I hear stories like this fairly frequently. It's just incredible. Like we say it's crazy, but it happens all the time.
And literally I wouldn't have even opened that job posting because it was a director role and it was for a Christian organization. And so I was like, I was already a vice president and I worked in hospitality for 30 years. So normally I wouldn't have even looked at that job, but because I literally just prayed to God to show me, I said, I have to open it. And when I opened it, when you read the job description, it described everything that I had spent the last 10 years building at my previous organization. And so literally it was the light was like, oh, and I applied and I thought I wouldn't even get a call back. I got a call back literally that same day from a recruiter and obviously got the job as a result.
It seems like one of the key takeaways of this conversation is right here. And that is one, uh, when you pray for something or ask for something from your higher power, be open to it coming to you in all different kind of ways. Like it might not show up the way you think it's going to show up.
And I'll tell you, Lori, I spent 30 years in the grind. I mean, literally, I feel like being in hospitality, the first half of my career, I was in operations and I ran hotels and resorts, and it's 24/7. You just go, 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 go. And then even in my the second part of that season where I was, running leadership development and training teams, you, you just were I was just focused on running the team and getting the classes put together and focused on me and my career trajectory and all these things. And I needed that layoff to happen at the end of 2023 to give me some clarity, to allow me to slow down and to stop for a second and to reflect and discern. And yes, to reach out and and to seek what kind of person does God want me to be, because I never took that time to do that in those 30 years. And it's been such a powerful experience, and I really have it's changed my life for good.
How how are you different now than you were 3 years ago when that layoff happened?
I make decisions much more thoughtfully. I I I take time every morning and spend time in meditation and scripture, and I really, I go for very long walks, and I really, where in the past, again, I was just go, 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 and making decisions so quickly, and so yeah, I've learned to really slow down and discern, and it's been so helpful. And like you said, to just ask God, or to, and to ask the questions, and then to stop and listen for those answers. And it's amazing how those answers come to you in so many different ways. And whether it's uh, him putting people in my path to meet like you, some amazing people, or just what to do with your time today to help move this movement along. It's been an incredible journey.
You said something that is also another key, and that is slowing down enough to listen. Was a lot of us ask, but maybe don't listen or get quiet enough to listen for the answers.
It's powerful, and I don't think I ever did that before. And to do that, and to truly listen, and then to hear the answer, it's incredible. It really is an incredible experience.
Would you say that that moment of that point in the 6 months where you were like, "Ah, it's 6 months is over. What am I going to do now?" Like that uh anxiety point is what forced you to stop and ask and then get quiet enough? Like why weren't you doing it before?
Yeah, I think the 6 month panic attack was the thing
Okay.
that I've always prayed. Like, I've always had that relationship with God, but that was the first time that I really just kind of surrendered and said, I give up. I really feel like I had more control of my life up to that point. And I said, you know what, God, I just surrender. I give it up to you. And just, I'm here to follow, and just guide me. And ever since that moment, every single day, he's been leading me, and I've been following. And it's been a completely different journey than the past 30 years of my career.
Do you feel more a sense of peace?
Yes, every day.
That seems so simple.
Mm.
I'm sure some people who are listening are thinking that just seems too simple. It can't be that easy.
I've learned that one of the things that I have learned through this process is to focus on today. That I think so often we focus on whether it's what happened yesterday and the mistakes, or the things that happened in the past, or we're worrying about the future. And so the thing that helps me brings me peace is I keep reminding myself, and it says it in scripture, but is
Mm.
tomorrow's going to worry for itself. Let tomorrow worry about itself. And the past is in the past. We can't do anything about fixing anything or changing anything that's already happened. So let's focus on what we can do today. And that brings me so much peace and refocuses me. And if I feel a little anxious, I remind myself of that, and it helps me just kind of refocus, and again, make the best of the moment that we're in, because yep, it's finite, right?
Yes, absolutely. It is limited. And like yeah, people talk about life being short. I think the word finite is a good term of it. We don't like long or short, that's all relative, but it is finite.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who was in your corporate position? Because you have a little bit more freedom now, some might say, that you are running your own show and you're not in that corporate, mm, typically called rat race. And you probably couldn't go back to that environment, but what if you were? What would you say to somebody who's still in that environment and feels like, oh yeah, you have the freedom to say this and I don't?
Anybody can do anybody can do this, and I wish I could go back and tell my old self some of these things, right? And I think it starts with looking in the mirror. I would, if I were to give advice to people that are in that environment, and to me, we coach leaders, and I talk about leadership is kind of my passion. But when you look at yourself, first of all, it's all about perspective. So I think as a leader, if you can look at the mirror and change your perspective and say, my job as a leader is not to be served, but it is to serve those that have been entrusted into my care. That's the first step, right? And understanding that that's the best way to get results. If you want to get results, like the best results, you need to take care of your people, right? If you want to get more out of your people, take better care of your people.
Mm-hmm.
And so the the idea is you want to go in each day. Remind yourself every day, your job is to go in and make sure you're removing barriers from your team, that you're helping make sure that they've got the training and the tools, and that you know what's going on. You know the reality of what's going on for your people, and that you're making sure you're recognizing and appreciating, and that's your main focus. That's your job. Because if they're flourishing and they're at their best and they're engaged, then everything else works out. The results will follow. You think about that 30% engagement, right? If you think about a boat, I love this analogy. If you have a boat with 10 people rowing, you've got 3 of them that are currently in the front of the boat rowing really, really, really strongly, right? For you, you got 5 people in the middle of the boat with their oars in the water, but they're barely like they're just kind of in there. And then you
Right.
got 2 people in the back of the boat that are literally trying to row it in the opposite direction. So let's get those people in the middle rowing, right? That's if we can get more people rowing, you're going to get those results much faster, much better. And so that's the role of a leader. If you can change that perspective, and then the next step is to look at people that you serve, that you lead, and look at them in the eye and recognize that they are priceless human beings. They're not resources, they're not assets. They are human beings with infinite value and untapped potential. And if you can look at people that way, you're going to treat them differently than if you look at them and see them as your subordinates, or you see them as, oh, you're the low performer, you're the high performer, you're the trouble child on my team. Because the way that we see people is the way that we treat them, and that's the way we make them feel, and that translates into how they ultimately perform and the results that you get from them. So if you can see your people as priceless human beings and you treat them based on that, you're already setting yourself up for success, because you're going to make them feel priceless, and you're going to boost their self-esteem, their self-image, the thoughts they're telling themselves, and that is going to have a positive influence on their feelings, their behavior, and again, it all translates into results.
What is a practical technique that somebody could do to see those people as humans if they have in the past been seeing them as resources?
I would just challenge people. It's a mental exercise. Like literally when you stop and see someone, I would just pause and go, what label do I put on this person? Right? Like even your boss, right? Or the CEO comes into the office, right? If we put that label, oh, they're the CEO, all of a sudden we've elevated them in worth for some reason. And now, oh, we get nervous, or right, because we put that label on them. So challenge yourself to say, what label am I putting on that person? And then change it to that priceless. We're all of equal value, and that helps you and how you feel, and it helps make it more comfortable for you to interact with that person, uh, and it's something you can practice in your normal life. I do it in traffic, I do it at the mall, I do it at the airport, and recognize. And this is the other thing I tell myself: every person has a story. I don't know the story, but every person has had struggles and pains, and they have strengths and they have things that I don't know the story. But once you get to know someone's story, it really is hard not to want to champion for them and help them, and but when we don't know them and we see them as strangers, it's easy to treat them with disrespect, or to kind of ignore them or be dismissive of them. So just recognize that everybody has a story, and I challenge leaders to get to know everybody on your team's story, because that's a great way to become a great servant leader.
Yeah, that's a great exercise to challenge your,
It's fun.
to put aside your title.
When somebody cuts you off in traffic, this is a great one. Someone cuts you off in traffic, tell yourself immediately, that person is a priceless human being. That person is a priceless human being, right? You don't know. Maybe they just found out their wife is in labor and they got to get to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Or that person that's driving 20 miles an hour in the 45 mile, like that person is, maybe they just found out like their wife has 3 months to live. We don't know what is going on in someone's life. And so if we can change our thoughts,
Yeah.
we change our emotions, and that also changes again our we we avoid that road rage. And so it's just a mental exercise that we can do to help ourselves.
Yeah, that's really practical. And the one you just brought up about driving 25 and a
Yeah,
45,
that's a hard one.
it brings, I know it is, but it brings to mind a story that my grandfather passed. He was like 96 or 97. And for those, like, I don't know if he was driving the last 5 years, but into his 90s, he was still driving, but very slowly.
I had great Aunt Frida. Oh my gosh, she was 90s driving. She'd wear these white gloves and this old blue Cadillac convertible, and you knew when she was on the road because there'd be a line of traffic lined up
Right,
behind her.
exactly.
Yeah, there
Exactly.
goes
I
Aunt
think the
Frida.
story was that he got pulled over for holding up traffic, and the police officer was very kind, just, hey, pay attention to the fact and maybe pull over and let people pass you.
Right.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, it is. It is. But that is such a good exercise in just, again, allowing the moment to be what it is, and maybe there's a reason that this is happening right now. As frustrating as it is, because those road incidents are one of my things. Like, I have places to be.
I know. It is so hard. It is so hard. And that's why I always say this stuff is so simple, but because it's simple, it doesn't mean it's easy. It really requires daily effort, a daily reminder. It's almost like every morning you wake up, you've got to focus and remind yourself of, especially if you're in a leadership role and you're going into work, and recognizing that as your employees come into the office, they are carrying with them the stress of their personal life, of the world, and especially today.
Yes.
I mean, all the stress of the political divide and the economy and the wars and AI and all the stress that's coming with AI, and is my job safe? And what does this mean about my value as a human being? There's more stress in the workplace today than ever before. And knowing that, the last thing they need is their leader to come in and dump on them even more. So this is that opportunity, this time in our life where I think we need to bring much more humanity into the workplace. And AI, sorry, leaders, but for decades, leaders have been valued based on their knowledge, right? Oh, you know so much about your business. AI is kind of taking that over, right? We don't need more knowledge. We need more humanity. And so I think the future leaders are going to be the ones that connect with humans better. So that's kind of what our focus is.
I agree 100%, because that relationship building and humanity part, that's the one part that AI cannot do.
So let the humans focus on what only humans can do, and let the computers do what the computers can do. That's what we have to figure out. Yeah.
So, before we wrap up, you have a solution to that humanity issue.
We have a solution, and the beautiful thing is it doesn't cost. And this is the thing: Gallup has this recent survey study, global study that shows that trillions of dollars are spent annually on trying to fix this engagement problem around the globe. And all this money is spent on programs and systems and recognition programs and all these things. And pizza parties. And none of it works. And we still have 30% engagement because they're not addressing the relationship problem. They're thinking it's a program problem, and it's not. The beautiful thing is you don't have to spend a ton of money, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It really does just change. You need a change of perspective and a change of heart. And if you can get your leaders to, again, look at leadership different and what the role of a leader is, if you can see that your role is to serve those on your team, and that's your number one priority, people first, right? See your people as the heart of your organization, take care of your people, get to know your people.
Yeah.
Things will change overnight, and you will start to get those results that you've never even seen before. And so that's what we're here to help. We're trying to create this national movement where we're going in. I've got amazing faculty across the country that are just passionate about what we're doing, and they're trying to help organizations again do this reset, or just create this foundation where we can help leaders see people differently so they can lead people better. And that's what we're all about.
I love that. And it just seems so somewhat odd to me that We need to teach people to see other people as humans.
It's common sense. It's just not common practice. But I think that's what we do is we try to get people away from their whirlwind of their office for a day so that we can kind of bring them through what I like to call the Ebenezer Scrooge experience. Because,
That sounds interesting.
we bring them and we help them, we bring them to their past and help have them relive experiences from their past, from their leadership experiences. We examine what's going on today, all the things we just talked about and all the stresses of today, and then we force people to their future, to the end of their career, to examine, what do you want to be known for? How do you want people to talk about you as their leader when it's all said and done? And that experience is usually enough to wake people up to say, this makes sense, right? We've got to do, but we've got to take care of our people because they're the answer to this. It's the goose and the golden egg, right? Who's producing the golden egg? It's the geese. Take care of your geese. It just makes sense.
I love that. Take care of your geese.
That's it. Honk, honk.
We, we might have to make that the title of this episode.
There you go.
We'll see. Scott, when you need an extra boost of energy, what is the song you listen to? You mentioned earlier before we started recording that you're a runner.
Yes. Yeah, I love to run. It's kind of that's my escape. And so if I'm doing a long run and I get a little tired towards the end, I like little Eminem, Lose Yourself is that song that will really pick me up and get me to the finish line.
Okay.
Maybe not appropriate as a servant leader, but that is my go-to song.
Everything is appropriate. It's all on the table.
Yes.
I will put a link to that in the show notes. And I'll also want to put in the show notes how somebody can reach you if they want to continue conversation with you.
Yeah, we try to keep it super simple. So nationalald.com is our website, and we put everything on there. We've got a national tour for our public workshops. We do executive retreats. We've got the book. We've got everything right there on the website. We'd love to connect.
Put a link to that in the show notes as well. Scott, thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a Four-Letter Word.
Thanks for having me.
Before we wrap, a few things from today's conversation with Scott Doggett that I think are really worth sitting with. First, sometimes you need the layoff. Scott spent 30 years in the grind before 2 layoffs in a row finally created the space for him to stop, slow down, and ask the real question: what does this season of my life actually need to be about? The disruption was the gift. Second, ask, then get quiet enough to actually listen. On the exact 6-month anniversary of his layoff, with no clearer answer than the day he started, Scott had what he describes as a mini panic attack. And for the first time, surrendered rather than just asking. That surrender, not the original prayer, is what he credits with finally letting the answer come through. When he stopped long enough to hear the answer come, it was in the first email in his inbox the next morning. We're good at asking. We're not always good at listening and surrendering. Third, the way you see people is the way you treat them. When you label someone as a resource, an asset, or a low performer, you're dehumanizing them. Remember Scott's practical exercise for seeing people as human rather than as a role. Pause and notice the label you just put on someone. Then consciously swap it for priceless human being. When you see them that way, everything changes, and it doesn't cost a thing. Fourth, 2/3 of your workforce is either coasting or actively working against you. Gallup estimates trillions of dollars are spent globally each year trying to fix engagement, almost all of it on programs and recognition systems, and yet engagement has stayed flat around 30% because that spending targets the wrong diagnosis. Scott recommends removing barriers, making sure your team has what it needs, learning what's going on in their lives, and recognizing them. Engagement changes when leaders see, hear, and value the people on their teams. And finally, focus on today. Yesterday was done. Tomorrow will worry for itself. Scott finds his peace there in a daily practice of not having everything figured out, but in doing the best with what's right in front of him right now. And in noticeably slower, less reactive decision-making compared to that go, go, go pace of his first 3 decades. That's what we explored today. If this resonated, share it with someone who leads people. I'm Lori Saitz, and this is Fine is a 4-letter word. I'll see you next time.